Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Ha, Rekakwadash, Mama. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone and the elders. Double honors to my elders as well, Aharawan, Banyasha Allah of the Lions Den Camp here in Jacksonville, Florida. And salutations to the fellow Akim, Atwafium, and Bunyim that believe in truth and sincerity. All right, Shalom to the brothers of the Lions Den Camp. All right, I wanted to play this quick video. And I got some scriptures in Yahweh Tazada's lesson to be edifying. All right. When I saw this video, I thought about a video, a lesson that the elder had did in the past on how this devil can't retain the spirit. All right. But this is what I saw on Instagram the other day.
Would transfer to the new body.
This is going to blow your mind. A startup company.
This video and tell me if you think the soul would transfer to the new body.
This is going to blow your mind. A startup company called BrainBridge announced today that they believe that they will be able to successfully perform a head transplant surgery in the next 8 years. The way that this would work is you would take a person with a perfectly healthy and active brain, but their body has cancer or paralysis, and transplant it to a brain-dead donor body. What's crazy is that they said that by doing this, the person that's receiving the new body would still be able to maintain their memories, cognitive abilities, and consciousness. They say that the brain could last several hundred years if it had a good working body, and that might be a potential in the future, but that this would also give people with different ailments a second chance.
There's a lot of ways you can go with this, man. A second chance, right? That's one thing that stood out to me. But most importantly is that, hey, if the Lord wants you to be lame, all right, lame as in crippled, you're gonna very well be that. All right. But again, dealing with the head, the neck, when it comes to the flesh, right, it's like dealing with the silver cord, all right, of the Lord spiritually, in this lesser realm, to where once it's loose, it's loose. The head connected to like the spine, right? The whole nervous system, which ultimately dictates what limbs could move or not. All right. It dictates the senses of the flesh, ultimately, your nervous system, your nerves. Right. But it says here on his title, it says, does the soul transfer to the new body? And that's what just stood out, and this is what make this devil a diabolical demon. All right, and this is what shows that he's the physical counterpart of the spiritual demon Satan, man, on the left-hand side. All right, the deceiver. All right, ultimately, the term devil means diablos, right, in the Latin. And we break it down from the Latin, it means diablos, meaning deceiver, right? So he's the top deceiver on the earth. Again, the wicked, all right? Esau, Edom, and his nation of people. And this is what they do. They create inventions, right? Devices, that's ultimately going to lead them to the king of terrors, man. Judgment. One of the first scriptures I want to get, it's Ecclesiastes chapter 3 and verse 20. It says, all go into one place, all are of the dust, and all turn to dust again. All right. And this all speaking on this flesh. The brother was speaking on it this past camp on the minerals, the elements, right, that the Lord ultimately created. And that's ultimately what our bodies, this flesh here in this lesser realm, all right, this third dimension possess, right? It's all made up of the elements, which ultimately everything here is going to be dissolved, man, including all the elements, including the people. Only thing that's going to make it out of here is the spirit. All right. And pretty much controlling the spirit or having some form of control of the spirit is spiritual power in this realm. All right. But again, this is how the Lord created the cycle, all right, of us being in the chains of darkness, right? That's what Paul called it. This flesh, this vile flesh, these vile bodies. You know, this is ultimately a part of the prison sentence of us disobeying the Lord, Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. All right. Um, as a scripture speak on how what the spirit could be willing, but the flesh could be weak. All right. And ultimately, the Lord created that cycle of man being created from the dust of the ground, right? The atoms, the elements, right? Adam, right? The elements. And ultimately, if you was to die in this flesh, that's ultimately how the body decays. It goes right back into the earth. All right, it replenishes itself. You know, the process of reincarnation, the whole nine. All right, but the Lord created that process, just being a point. All right, but in these times, all right, the times that we in, we're at the end where the Lord is manifesting Himself, His will, right, His prophecies, His judgments are ultimately coming to pass. You know, we're in the times that, like in Corinthians says, we shall not all die, but shall be changed, right, in the twinkling of an eye, right, because the only way to get into the chariots, the emergency vehicles of the Lord, which what the government, the nation of Esau, all right, Edom, call a UFO, right, is really the chariots of the Heavenly Father, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, right, the emergency vehicles that's going to get the elect out of here. All right. As the scriptures speak on how the elect shall scarcely be saved, right? In the twinkling of the eye, they shall be changed, right? When the Lord scream up, come up hither, you know, these bodies ultimately have to be done away with. They have to dissolve, right? But from there, I want to get the book of Ecclesiastes 8 and 8 to get a point. There is no man that have power over the spirit to retain the spirit, right? Like to retain the spirit. How could you cut off or sever off a head of a body off of a body and put it onto another and still claim to have the same memory, the whole nine? All right, and this is why the scriptures speak on how this devil plays as God, right? He sits in the temple of God, and this is how you're going to be able to identify in the last times who is the son of perdition, the spirit of iniquity. All right, spoken of in Second Thessalonians chapter 2. We go get it. All right, but here in Ecclesiastes 8 and 8, it says, there is no man that have power over the spirit to retain the spirit. All right, and the elder brought this out in his lesson a while back. All right, because they can't retain the spirit. All right, you have them talk on, you know, they have these clone talks, the clone aid, the kid boo whole thing, right? To where you would think that they can create a complete doppelganger out of a lab that's going to be the same age as the actual individual and be the spitting image. That's only the Lord only the Lord could do something like that, man. You know, if He made something perfect, right? Which what He did, right? He created man. He created this you know what we was what we supposedly call life, right? Which just ain't life at all yet until we get into the kingdom. All right. He created that and said it was good. All right. But here in Ecclesiastes 8 and 8, no man have power to retain the spirit. Neither have he power in the day of death, right? Like he can choose which day he die, or he can prevent it from happening. You know, Proverbs 20 and 24, man's goings is of the Lord. How could a man understand his own way? All right. So this scripture right here is clear cut on how what they doing is completely on the left hand side. And the Lord is about to show up. You know, he's a diabolical demon. This is a Frankenstein. Right? But this is Ecclesiastes 8 and 8 from the top. There is no man that have power over the spirit to retain the spirit. The only man could do that is Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. Right? And the elect, when they get in the kingdom, right? Neither have he power in the day of death, and there is no discharge in that war, right? There's no discharge in that war. You have nothing to do with it, right? Neither shall wickedness deliver those that are given to it, right? And that's ultimately what's going to lead Esau to hey, he's going to bring him to the king of terrors, man. You know, he's going out with the same devices that he created, man. I.e. the ICBM missile, right? Splitting the atom, making the atomic bomb. Again, manipulating and messing with the elements. All right. The Lord gave him power to do it to a certain extent on the left hand side. Yeah, you could take the spirit out of a body. He damn sure could do that. He could take a spirit out of a body, but he can't rejuvenate one back in one. Yeah, he can kill you. He got the power of the sword. The Lord gave him somewhat of a portion of that to be his whipping stick. Yeah, he gave him that. He gave him that license to get rid of Jake that disobey, that continue to loathe the law. That's why scriptures on how the Lord will give you up to that vile affection. All right. Ultimately to let Esau do whatever the hell he want to do with you. Right. From there, I want to get the book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 2 and verse 11. For what man knoweth the things of a man, save the spirit of man which is in him? Right. Even so, the things of Yahweh knoweth no man, but the spirit of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Right, man. It all comes down to who dwelling with the spirit of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, man. Kind of line up with John 17 as well. You know what? For what? Let me read it slower. All right. For what man knoweth the things of a man, save the spirit of man which is in him? Right. You know. It only works from the spiritual to the flesh. It don't work from the flesh to the spiritual. It don't work that way. So ultimately you got our people have to tap into the spiritual, right? Like those who listening and learning like us, we tapped into the spiritual, so we have a way to defeat the flesh, right? To understand the flesh because it's a lesser. Even so, the things of Yahweh knoweth no man, but the spirit of Yahweh, right? So you have to have the spirit of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah just to have ultimately understanding, right? Understanding, right? Knowledge, wisdom, right? Verse 12, now we have received not the spirit of the world, but the spirit which is of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah, that we might know the things that are freely given to us of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah, right? So we know that this devil he can't do that. He can't, he might get one of these CIA operatives to act as you, do some facial reconstruction surgery, but it's only one you pertaining to the spirit that the Lord created, right? Especially when it comes to the elect. Because the elect haven't received the spirit of the world. Look at 2/3 of our people who following Esau's way in his madness, sell a soul to him. He can create multiple versions of them, but it's still only one them. He can't retain the spirit being a point. But this devil is a diabolical demon. It's not even a long-winded lesson. This is simple, clear-cut scriptures on he's a devil. All right. He's a deceiver, man. He's a Frankenstein. He's trying to be able to bridge ahead. Like it's a bridge, like a tooth bridge, you know. Everything is fictitious and phony when it comes to this devil. Again, he can take a spirit from up out of an individual, right? With death, the sword, destruction, traps that he set, disbelief that he throws out there with his philosophies, his way of life. But he damn sure can't put a spirit back in a person, man. He can't give life. Only the Lord give that. Right? It's the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 2 and verse 6. With that being said, they that were Salakia, the Lord killeth and maketh alive, he bringeth down to the grave and bringeth up. Right, the Lord killeth and maketh alive. But Esau, again, he's trying to play as God, like 2 Thessalonians states, right? That's how we used to know who the wicked is, all right, in these times, because the Lord foretold us, man. He foretold the elect, right? So those of us who's listening and learning, man, hey, we're back in our remembrance, and we're to stay in it, right? The 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, and I'll start at verse 3, just to get to the point. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, right? It's speaking on 70 AD. The falling away, Roman persecution, right? Ransacking, the temple, us fleeing into the western coasts of Africa, right? That's how we ended up in the western coasts of Africa, all right? Again, ultimately being scattered later on, right? Ultimately being scattered through the various trades, slave trades, etc. All right, but it says, let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first. And that was the falling away, right? And that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, right? So we know Judas Iscariot is like the son of perdition in the circumference of things within the body, within Israel. But the true son of perdition, as far as the nations, all right, is Esau, Edom, all right, as he's the only nation that's not going to have any form of repentance, according to the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary in the scriptures, various verses, right? So it's going to be a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, man. So that man of sin is being revealed now. All right, we're in the times where the skirt is being lifted. Everybody hating this devil throughout the four corners of the earth when it comes to his policies, his unrighteous decrees, his draconian measures, his NWO, him trying to set up his fourth global reset, right? His fourth industrial revolution, his global reset. Is verse 4, who opposeth and exalted himself above all that is called God, right? Or that is worship, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God, right? Playing himself as if he's the Lord, And that's what 2/3 of our people ultimately fall subject to, because they actually subconsciously in their mind have to believe that this devil will continue on forever, man. Like Psalms 49:11 states. Because they ultimately saying, damn, we can't beat them, let's join them. They lose patience. They lack faith. They don't even want to hear the words of Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai, because they caught up in the sorcery. Because that's ultimately what it is, man. Trying to tap into the spiritual realm, thinking you can bring spiritual, people back from the dead through AI and stuff like that is all wickedness. And it's all, again, like a form of necromancy, warlock, witch type of, Chaldean type of magic, hoodoo, Houdini type stuff, right? What you will call it in the flesh today in this realm, magic, right? That's just a wicked term, all right? If anything is manipulated when it comes to this flesh from the spirit, all right, it'll be from spiritual power one, all right, and that'll be spiritual power, versus magic, it's spiritual power. That's pretty much what it is, right? But you got to be in sync with Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai. You got to have understanding. Let me see if that's all I even had on that. So like, this is verse 5. This is 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 5. Remember ye not that when I was yet with you, I told you these things? And now ye know what withholdeth that he might be revealed in his time, right? When the Lord was on the scene, he told us these things. He forewarned us, right? It's in Second Ezra, I believe that's chapter 8, towards the end. I'm speaking to Ezra. Bear with me. On how many prophets have prophesied, roughly paraphrasing. And I was in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 5, okay? Remember, I have told you these things. This 2 Ezra chapter 8 I start at this is second Ezra chapter 8 and verse 60. But they which be created have defiled the name of him that made them, right? The world don't have the true and rightful name of the Lord. Then we try to tell them the Father's true name is Yahweh. The Son name is Yahweh Shai. You know, 2/3 of our people don't want to listen. They rather beg to differ or want to, since you have studied to show yourself approved, you're calling upon the Lord, you're doing his will, you know, to the best of your ability and truth and sincerity. They try to gainsay against you with some other name they heard because they want to play battle of the wits when there's salvation on the line. It's judgment at the door, right? But it says here in 2nd Ezra chapter 8 and verse 60, but they which be created have defiled the name of him that made them, right? Esau too, and were unthankful unto him and these other heathen nations, and were unthankful unto him which prepared life for them, right? You know, to where they're trying to, they think they can outdo the Lord. They go take a body off of somebody paralyzed from the neck down. They go take a head from him and put it on a living head. So a living body. So what's gonna happen to the person that had the good body? It don't make sense. Like it don't make sense. But again, this is what Esau does, right? You had the David Rockefeller. He had like 8 heart transplants somewhere along those lines. So 8 people had to die. But it's back in 2nd Ezra chapter 8 and verse 61. And therefore is my judgment now at hand. These things have I not showed unto all men, but unto thee and a few like thee. Then answered I and said, Behold, O Lord, now hast thou showed me the multitude of the wonders which thou wilt begin to do in the last times, but at what time thou hast not showed me, right? Because no man know the day or the hour. All right, but we know it's creeping up because we're, again, look at what we're reiterating here in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 6. And now ye know what withholdeth that he might be revealed in his time. He's revealed, man. The cat out the bag, you know. We calling upon the true and rightful name of the Lord, Yahweh, and his only begotten Son, who the world ignorantly calls JC, whose name is Yahweh Shai. We calling upon those names. All right. So again, we holding up that banner, you know, that they may enter into the gates of the nobles, man. All right. So ultimately, once that has started, all right, from Albert Bivens on down, the brothers like myself, brothers that's coming in, all right. As we at the end, the elect is getting sealed before all hell's breaking loose. All right. That was the beginning of the end, man. You know, the end is being manifested, you know, being a point. This verse 7, for the mystery of iniquity doth already work, right? Because he was speaking on the, you know, at this time when the Lord was warning the prophets, his people, it was the time of the Roman Empire. All right, from the Romans, from the Romans to the Greeks to Americans, right? Or Britain, right? Whether they French Caucasian, English Caucasian, Spaniard Caucasian, they all from the Caucasus Mountains of geographically Georgia, Russia, Mount Seir, Petra, Edom, right? According to their fathers, right? So 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and 7, for the mystery of iniquity doth already work. Only he who now letteth will let until he be taken out of the way. And then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming, man. Right, with the missiles, when he come and denuclearize the earth. It's the book of Psalms. Chapter 68. And 20. It's a quick point. He that is our power is the God of salvation, And unto Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahushua, the Lord, belong the issues of from death, right? So the issues from death ultimately belong to him. We have nothing to do with that. All right. We have no choice in that. You know, again, Esau tried to, he has somewhat of a choice as far as taking the spirit from a man, right? Because he's the Lord whipping stick, but he can't put a spirit within an individual. He can't retain the spirit, you know, make something come alive, right? You can't do that. You know, that's where they're a wicked people. They're not a springtime, flourishing type of people. You know Esau. He like to run and jog and have fun in the winter and shit. But he don't. He's not a spiritual people, man. Just being a point. You know, there's no way he can have the issues of. He can handle the issues of death. It's not. It's not a. It's not a place for man. It's not a place for the creation. Right. Ultimately, the creator. You know, that's the scriptures say. What kind of creature say to the creator? You know, but that's Esau's mindset. And that's the mindset that the Lord ultimately put Esau in, you know, ultimately to bring him to his destruction. All right. And 2/3 of our people who follow him ultimately are going to be destroyed and given that same portion of him, of the unbelievers. All right. As the scriptures speak on, as the deceived and the deceiver are his, man. So the deceive and those who being deceived are just as guilty. All right. And just it has just as much of a judgment as the deceiver, right? Especially 2/3 of our people, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans and Seminole Indians, man. But Shalom, Habatah, and detail into the next one, man. They were trying to bridge a head onto another body. That's my question. If you take a head off of a body that don't work or whatever the case may be and put on a body that do work, what happened to the person? Shalom, man. DTA.